The film opens with a domestic abuse victim, Violet, who has been assaulted by her husband. As her husband points a gun at her, she takes out her gun in defense. The scenes fast forward a few years, in which we see Violet giving online therapy to abused victims. She has gotten rid of her toxic husband and is living a happy life with her son. After playing hide-and-seek with her son, she gets ready for a date, which was arranged by her sister, Jen. Jen helps her pick out an outfit and stays behind to babysit the son since he's very young. Violet reaches the hotel and takes the elevator to the restaurant on the rooftop. There, she gets a text from her date, Henry, that he'll be a few hours late. He sincerely apologizes to her in advance. Violet doesn't mind and heads to the restaurant, where a man bumps into her with such force that his phone falls to the ground. He picks it up for her. She ignores this and waits at the bar counter, where other men try to hit on her too, including an old man named Richard. Violet texts Jen to get updates on her son, during which she gets an anonymous drop from someone asking her to share a picture for fun. Since it's a drop, she figures it's someone from the restaurant. She takes a look around and tries to clock the person, but Henry arrives. The two head to their table and formally open the conversation, during which Violet randomly checks her phone and finds another drop. In the drop, the person is asking her not to ignore him. She still ignores it and keeps Henry company. As a few minutes go by, the anonymous person sends another drop, followed by a freaky meme. She shares her concerns with Henry, who also looks around without taking it seriously and asks her to do the same. The freaky drops keep popping up on her phone, but she ignores them until the person asks her to check her house surveillance footage. Now scared, she monitors the live footage and spots a masked man barging into her house, who is also armed with a gun. Before she panics and tells this to Henry, the anonymous drop sender threatens her to keep things to herself. She silently suffers and walks away from Henry to call the cops, but the sender lets her know her phone is cloned and that he can see everything through the screen. Violet, on her way to the bathroom, bumps into the same man she had bumped into earlier. She ignores him and tries to get some help from the girls in the bathroom. The sender, who has fully targeted Violet, tells her to stop fooling around or he will do something bad to her son. Violet returns to her table and puts on a fake smile. She figures the man is keeping an eye on her from the surveillance cameras, so she asks Henry to switch tables. They call the waiter, who finds them a new spot, but the sender tells her to get back to her old tale or else he will kill her son. Now, fully manipulated, she returns to the old table, where she and Henry finally order dinner. Simultaneously, she asks the anonymous sender what he wants. He finally shares his ulterior motive, which is to get Violet to steal a memory card from Henry's professional camera. Violet quickly hides her wristwatch in her bag and convinces Henry to search for the watch all around the restaurant. In his absence, she takes out his camera and finds some pictures of the town's mayor and some documents that probably expose the mayor. All she cares about is her son, so she steals the card and puts the camera back. Henry also returns without the watch, since it was never lost. To make things look natural, she talks to him for a while before heading to the bathroom and destroying the memory card. Since she knows he can see and hear her, she tells him to pull out his men from her house now that the card has been destroyed. The man tells her that there's something else that she must do first. He tells her to check the towel dispenser, in which she discovers a vial of poison. He wants her to poison Henry for him, but Violet refuses to have murder on her hands. When he reminds her he has full control over her life and son, she agrees to assassinate him. When she returns to the restaurant, she starts suspecting the guy who bumped into her twice. Before she can confirm her suspicion, she sees Henry leave the restaurant. She stops him, but he expresses that he can sense she's avoiding him deliberately. She immediately kisses him to make him feel seen and heard, just so she can keep him long enough to poison him. Subsequently, she keeps Henry company, while simultaneously sending the pianist some tip money, on which she has written, "Help me," with her lipstick. The money gets put in a tip jar without being seen, which makes Violet anxious. The pianist eventually sees the note and tries to reach out for help, but the waiters arrive to serve Violet and Henry food. Under the veggies, she finds her dollar bill and a threat. She apologizes to the sender through the drop, but he lets her know she owes it to someone else. She quickly looks at the pianist, who drinks a spiked martini and faints. The sender also punishes her by making her monitor her house surveillance as his assassin beats her sister and locks her son up. She breaks down in tears as the sender pushes her to poison Henry. She heads to the bar counter and orders 2 drinks. She plans on spiking them with poison, but the sender instructs her to do that at the table. She brings the drinks back to the table, where Henry has discovered her watch and is now disappointed at her for lying. Since she can't tell him about the threat she's under, she starts oversharing her past traumas with him and how she got out of a passive-aggressive relationship. She breaks down into tears during the conversation, so Henry goes to get chocolates for her, so he can cheer her up. In his absence, she spikes his drink, but when Henry arrives and decides to take a sip, she deliberately spills the drink because of her apt moral scale and makes it look like an accident. Henry goes to the bathroom to clean himself, during which the sender blackmails her again. She musters the courage to take action and confront the man she collided with, but his partner arrives. Violet is approached by the waitress, who senses that Violet is in trouble and offers help. Violet keeps the threat to herself and inquires about the men she momentarily engaged with before Henry arrived. That's how she comes to suspect the old man, Richard, whom she chatted with for a while. She approaches him with drinks, but he refuses the offer while referring to her as Violet. Violet's suspicions are confirmed since she never introduced herself to him. Violet calls out his mistake, due to which he admits to everything and persuades her to carry out the assassination. Soon, Richard arrives and feels awkward seeing his date chat up another man. Violet introduces Richard as her old friend, so Henry doesn't take offense. She invites Henry for a drink, which she has spiked. Once Henry drinks it, she asks him to return to his table and wait for her. She now tells Richard to pull out his assassin from her house, so he agrees to do so now that she's poisoned Henry. He pulls out his croissant and enjoys his meal. When he's halfway through it, Violet confesses that she tricked him and poisoned his food instead of Henry's drink. She did this when he was busy gazing at Henry taking the drink. Richard starts choking on his food and takes out his gun in a fit of rage. Violet immediately gets up from there, which draws everyone's attention. Henry rushes to save Violet and takes a bullet for her. Once he's out of the frame, Richard comes for Violet next, who keeps hiding under the tables. He starts tilting tables, which creates panic and mayhem. Just before he shoots Violet, the waitress attacks his hand, due to which the bullet hits the window instead of Violet. He takes the sabotage very personally and ends up stabbing the waitress vigorously in her back. After getting her out of the way, he comes for Violet again. Now, standing near the cracked glass window, he aims his gun at her. He gets a call from his contractor, who's disappointed in him. Hence, he shoots his phone. Violet notes the crack and throws an object to break the glass. This trick works, and the glass window breaks. A strong gust of wind pulls Richard out of the window along with Violet. Whereas Richard dies a brutal death, Violet hangs on to a torn piece of cloth. Henry pulls her back up and saves her even though he's bleeding to death. After checking up on Henry and the waitress, she checks her house footage and fears that Richard's assassin might return after the ordeal. She takes Henry's car keys and heads straight home while simultaneously calling the cops. On her way, Violet watches through the monitor that the assassin has returned and is hunting down her sister. She dodges him, so he points his gun at the son. Jen breaks a glass on his head and allows the son to run away. She comes after the son and helps him lock the door. The assassin still enters and shoots her. Before he can go for Violet's son next, Violet arrives and makes him aware of her presence, now holding a knife. Violet stabs the assassin, but it doesn't stop him from throwing her around and hurting her. During this, her son gets hold of the gun and passes it to her via his remote control truck. Violet quickly takes the gun and shoots the man dead. The next scene shows things getting back to normal. Violet brings food for Henry at the hospital, where Jen is also admitted, revealing that they both survived after all. Here, the movie ends.